What's up, everybody? It's Carl with Tint. Today we're going to be doing an overview of the different types of tools and squeegees we use whenever we're doing an install on a vehicle. Let's get to it. All right, so this is the tool cart that holds all the tools that I have, all the hand tools. We've got our primary tools that we use on a daily basis on basically every vehicle here in the top. Let's first talk about cleaning. We use the white Scotch-Brite scrub pads. It'll allow you to clean the glass without having to worry about scratching it. I personally like to clean the outside of the windshields, front and rear, before I shrink them. And whenever I clean them, I make sure to use a different squeegee. That way, in case it collects any contaminants, I don't care if it's not perfect, the edge doesn't stay perfectly clean. I use the Fusion Turbo Pro, the black one. It's the softest one. It makes it real easy to squeegee the water off. And then when I'm cleaning the insides of the glass, I use the same scrub pad, and I use the yellow Fusion Turbo Pro. It's a little bit harder, but I make sure to only use this on the inside of the glass after it's been cleaned. And then when cleaning the rear glass or on the windshields, if there's hard to reach places, we've got the scrubber here. The scrub pads Velcro to it nicely, and you can get down into some hard to reach areas, which makes it a lot easier to clean. As far as squeegeeing those hard to reach places, I've got the Auto Bulldozer. I actually wrap the end of it in a Teflon tape. It makes it slide across the glass and the film a lot easier. Depending on what type of film you use, it might be a little bit more grippy, and that works really well. It does have to be replaced quite often, but that's okay. It's not very expensive. As far as a razor blade for some of those hard to get spots, I've got just a basic blade holder with a stainless steel blade in there. I make sure to replace those almost every window, depending on how much is on there, especially whenever you're doing tint removal. You have to use a lot more blades. Now let's talk about shrinking and applying the film. So for the back glass and the windshield, I use an ivory soap. This is just basic bar soap you can get at any Walmart or drugstore. I apply a little bit of the slip solution, whether it's the baby shampoo or the tint slime and water mixture. Rub this on the glass. Once that dries, it makes it a lot easier to dry shrink. The heat gun that I use for dry shrinking, I picked up at Home Depot. It's the Wagner heat gun. It's actually the basic heat gun with the finger switch. I was going to upgrade to the more expensive one, but it's got buttons on the back. It's not as easy to operate. It's not as efficient. It's kind of a two-hand operation, so I went with the basic one. It makes it a lot easier. Now, when shrinking the film, instead of using a hard card, I use this felt card by MacTac. It's a little bit more forgiving and prevents creasing a lot better. Now, for those of you who don't use a plotter or may like to hand cut, or sometimes you just have to hand cut because there's not a pattern for it, I use the red dot knife. This works really well. It's got the blade snapper on the back. Real easy to use. You can switch it from left-handed to right-handed. I'm actually left-handed, so it's nice that I can switch that orientation of the blade itself. A couple of tools that I don't use real often. It's more so for door panel removal or sweep removal. Just a universal bit screwdriver. It's got Torx bits, flatheads, Phillips. Real easy to use. Just a Husky. Picked that up from Home Depot. Got a gasket pusher. This is good for prying off some door panels and kind of pushing the gaskets around, even sometimes putting the film into those hard to reach places. And then same thing, depending on if you top load or bottom load. If you're top loading, two-staging the film, this is good to kind of pull the weather stripping back, but you got to be real careful because it is metal and can scratch the tint whenever you're applying it. But these tools I don't use as often because I like to bottom load, pull the sweeps, or pull the door panel if I need to. Now, when I'm actually applying the film, my favorite squeegee combination is the Orange Crush from Fusion Tools and the Shorty handle. I believe it works very well. It's a good hardness. I use the cropped one because it helps get into some of those hard to reach areas a little bit better. It's a good hardness, easy to grip. It's not too big and too bulky. It doesn't have too much of a curve to it, so you can get into a lot of places, even on back glasses or windshields. A couple of my favorite tools, especially once the film's already applied, or even for cleaning, this tri-edge, it's got a squeegee on the edge of it. So whenever I'm cleaning inside the roll-down windows, I'm going to spray the edges in the bottom, and I'm going to use this edge squeegee to get deep into the gasket to make sure I get all the grime out of there. Same with the bottom gasket. Now, I do also use this whenever I'm applying the tint. So once I get the film in there, I need to get those air bubbles and water pushed out of the corners. I actually use the side without the squeegee. That's more of a personal preference. It works really well. Depending on your film, this isn't going to scratch the tint at all. And it works really well to push out that water. Now, I'm sure everyone who's been tinting for a while has seen the little chiseler or used it, probably use it on a daily basis. This is great for little air bubbles or little creases you need to push out. You apply some heat to the outside. It's got a bunch of different angles. It's a good hardness to make sure that you're not scratching the glass, but you're also getting enough pressure on there to get those air bubbles out or any defects that might be in the film. The more you have to use this, probably the worst the installation is. So in the end, I hope that I don't have to use this at all, but it does happen. And then the final item that I use is the hard card with the felt on the end of it. There's a couple different options. I actually lost the one that I use the most. It's called Wet Edge. This is a more basic version of it. It works pretty well, but the Wet Edge brand is a lot better. I'll be ordering some more of those here shortly. But any felt card, any hard card will do with the felt on the end of it. It's great for areas that fingers are starting to come up because you can't get the water completely out. As you squeegee it down, it's going to soak up that water to make sure that film stays in place. All right, those are the tools I use on a daily basis on pretty much every install. If you have any questions about any of them, or maybe some tools you like to use, drop a comment and we can go over that. And thank you for watching.